Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 19 of the Recce Report on this start of the festive period. I'm your co-host Russ, former British Army warrant officer.
And I'm the other co-host, former British Army Corporal Cliff Purvis. And yes, episode 19, they said we wouldn't get past 2. They were so nearly right as well. Okay, so we are into, as Russ mentioned, the festive season. If you tuned in expecting festive hats, wrong programme. Because I'm using a green screen at the back, my hat's green, and it just makes a mess of things.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely. And it's and the beauty of it is, Mike, because we're veterans now, we're civvies, so there's no Christmas duties or stagger on for me and thee over this period for a change.
Yeah, the lastminute.com, someone's not turned up for duty. You're not going home.
I'm probably jinxing it, mate. I'll get to work tomorrow and find out I'm on call Christmas Day now.
We're the work I'm at. We stand down a week on. Well, it's a week on Friday. We're off for through the holidays, so it's all good stuff. Lots and lots of things to do. Right, so let's get back into the show. One really, really good publication I came across in the last month, Russ, was in the UK Defence Journal.
Now, yeah.
It's rapidly turning into my go-to publication if I want to knock heck out of our UK government saying that they are maintaining our defence forces. They're not. We know they're not. It's a hollowed out shop window affair. But the Martin Docherty-Hughes MP, who's the Scottish National Party defence spokesman at Westminster,
appointed this year by Stephen Flynn, the Westminster leader. Yeah,
I like the way Stephen's moving. By the way, I do.
You like him. So what's Martin Docherty-Hughes got to say in the UK Defence Journal then, Cliff?
Yeah, it's all about reliance and security in an independent Scotland, and he's got a series. He's going to be pinging in a few articles on this one, and I think I'm right in saying, Russ, that this is the first time we've come across someone from the SNP in this type of journal. Which
I think I think the only time I've seen independence mentioned in that type of journal before was back in 2014 when they were obviously massively denigrating the idea, and pointing out that we wouldn't have an army,
which is be invaded and all sorts of things, all that nonsense. So this is, I think, is a good thing. Now I happened, and I'm going to name drop here. I happened to have a cup of coffee with this guy in Edinburgh a few weeks back when we were doing our thing, liaising with them, getting the veterans noticed and stuff like that.
Did he ask for your autograph, mate?
No, he didn't, unfortunately. And I had one already done. I've been practicing. So he's written in he's been published in the journal, and he's basically saying that if we get people to like Scotland, they're going to like the infrastructure of Scotland, and then having people wanting to join the military to defend that infrastructure will be so much easier. And it's not a debate or an argument I've heard before or heard it worded like that, but when you think it through, surely it must make sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think that aspect of switching it around to saying, look, if we have decent public services, if we're looking after the people that live and work in Scotland, then there'll be a greater desire to serve in an armed forces, a defence force, whatever we're going to call it, in order to protect that kind of way of life. And I get it, and it's a really I think novel approach to it, rather than the sort of Westminster UK British Army thing of let's go to all the deprived areas and recruit people because they make great cannon fodder.
Well, I mean, and I'm not having to go at anybody that has served or is still serving in the UK forces, but that has always been the case. They've always put the recruiters into the deprived areas, and as you say, that's how they used to swell the ranks of the infantry. But unfortunately, that no longer seems to be working. People are not wanting to join the military. I think one of the longest modern wars that the UK has ever fought, has put the seal on that one. I mean, just today, if anybody is wondering how loyal the Westminster government is, there's apparently former Afghan special forces in camps on the Pakistan-Afghan border who should have been brought back to the UK as part of the deal. You did work for us. You're coming back with us. They have been left there, and it looks like they're going to be repatriated to Afghanistan. And I don't think it would take the brains of Boris Johnson to try and work out what would happen to those poor folk once they get repatriated. But that's just the nature of Westminster. They will turn their back on you quicker than anything.
Yeah, and it ties into the whole xenophobia that's going on at the minute. That's been driven by the Tory party in Westminster and has infiltrated, every part of our society. I'd be naive to think we don't have racists and xenophobes in Scotland. Of course we do. But I think generally, our parliament, our government is a lot more welcoming. And the infuriating thing for me is the propaganda that's been drip-fed in. Now, the beauty of propaganda, as we said before, is that if it works well, then you don't realise you've been convinced of something outrageous. And they keep talking about stop the boats and illegal asylum seekers. And it's that language where, it's not illegal to claim asylum, but the UK government, one, has stopped processing asylum claims and has shut down any of the legal safe routes that previously existed. So now there's no way to get to UK, as far as the Tories are concerned, legally to claim asylum, which is ridiculous. As I've said before, just because we're an island in Europe doesn't give us special protection from our international responsibilities to process asylum claims.
Yeah,
They're getting away with it. The language is very right-wing language. And I think, as I've said to you before, Cliff, my worry is that Labour are not offering an alternative. The Tories have drifted further right, and Labour have followed them. Starmer's saying, "Yeah, I'm going to make Brexit work. We're going to keep the immigration rules as they are." It's a belief, and it seems to me that it's shown that fundamental difference. I think, as I say, we still have right-wing people in Scotland. I'm not idealistic, but the majority of people in Scotland tend to be centre-left, a bit more progressive. The majority. My worry is the propaganda gets so insidious that people start drifting, and it's not because they're bad people; it's because they're just buying into what they're being spoon-fed. Yeah. Sorry, that's my rant. That's my rant for the day.
And you're quite entitled to it, Russ. You're quite entitled to do that type of thing. It's part of what we do here. Yeah, just to underline what Russ was saying there about the drift to the new Tory party, which is of course formerly known as Labour. There was the bit from the Shadow Health Secretary who was accusing the NHS of using the winter crisis as the winter crisis it always faces as an excuse to ask for more money. This was the Labour shadow NHS spokesperson saying this.
I know the audacity. I mean, that would be akin to using a global pandemic to give PPE contracts to your mates, wouldn't it? It's just unthinkable.
Sorry. Why are these people not in jail?
I know, but that aspect of the NHS say that every year. Of course they do, because they're underfunded every year.
Yes.
And they're saying, look, unless you fund this properly, then people are going to die over winter, and it's the people. Well, that's a weird thing, because the people that die are traditionally Tory voters, because it's the older people who tends to be the Tories' core vote. And it just shows you how little of a crap they give about people in general.
What's the saying? They'd eat their children if they needed to. Yeah, they have no loyalty. They have only one loyalty, and that is to accumulate and lock in money to pass it on to their heirs. But yes, so we are. Yes, we're oh, sorry, I'm desperately trying not to swear here. This is what the problem is.
I've brought my puffer with me, mate. So whenever I think I'm going to swear, I'm just going to have a go at my vape.
Well, you go. You have
so
a go at your vape.
So you can tell how irate I'm getting by how much I'm puffing.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to bring up another subject that is bound to calm you down, and that was that absolutely no shock decision by the Scottish court through the week there.
Yeah.
About the Gender Recognition Act that was legally passed in the Scottish Parliament.
By two-thirds of MSPs voted for that, mate, yeah.
Yeah, 2/3 of the MSPs, so it was cross-party support. I think the only party that did not back it was the Fascistos.
Yeah, Tories,
so the court came out and said that, yes, Westminster were acting within legality when they was at the Section 35 for that one. Who would have thought?
I know, and I think we've had this conversation before, mate. The truth is, yes, for some people it's a really unpopular piece of legislation. I get that. I absolutely get that. But if you believe in democracy and 2/3 of MSPs voted for it, if you agree with what Westminster have done, then you don't support democracy. You only support democracy when it supports your agenda. And there's plenty of things that the Scottish Parliament brought out that I maybe don't agree with, or I'm not particularly behind. But I get that democracy means that if it's voted for and it's passed, then that's what happens. Of course, the Supreme Court turned it down because we're operating. We're trying to play by the other side's rules, and it's a game we cannot win.
Yep. Just to underline that, we do not live in a democracy.
No.
We don't. We live in what's euphemistically called a parliamentary monarchy.
Yeah.
A constitutional monarchy, except we don't have a written codified constitution. So any act of Parliament can be changed.
Yeah.
Including the Scotland Act. Now, people seem to think that the Scotland Act is enshrined, it will never be altered. Our Parliament in Holyrood is there for eternal. No. If Sunak wanted to, he could turn around and say, right, we're repealing the Scotland Act, get a majority in Parliament, job done.
I mean, that's ludicrous. That would be like declaring Rwanda a safe country.
Yes, and forcing through legislation on that. And that's another absolute scary thing. He didn't even pause to blink when he was coming out with that. He was standing at the lectern with "Stop the boats." Only 100 years ago, they were welcoming small boats coming across that channel because they were evacuating the BEF.
Yeah, there's a really good comment there from Helen. The new powers that they want for the DWP to access bank accounts if you receive any state benefits, including old age pension.
Yeah.
So that is, I mean, why? I get why they're doing it, because they want to make sure that people are not having an extra 20 quid in their bank account at the end of the day. The cash in hand types, all that sort of stuff. Meanwhile, they completely ignore the billions of tax avoidance that goes on from the big corporations. It's really worrying, that aspect of that snooping into people's bank accounts. And it's like I've said before, you often hear when these things happen, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. And that's fine. And that's fine until the government decide you do have something to hide.
Yeah. They make the rules. They decide. Are you what you are allowed to have and what you're not allowed to have, or that's what they're trying to do, and they're doing it bloody successfully. They're doing it by small increments. Johnson was inept when he tried shutting down Parliament, because that was just a step that wasn't they're ready for. Yeah, Sunak's not that inept. He's doing it bit by bit. We are heading for dictatorship. To get back to the Rwanda Act, now, James Cleverly, at the start of his statement on that bill, turned around and said he cannot say anything to the effect that Rwanda is a safe country.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah, said that at the start of the legislation, didn't he? I cannot say that this is in accordance with human rights.
Yeah. So the international law that they're looking to supersede is the Human Rights Convention, the Refugee Convention, the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, the United Nations Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman and Degrading Treatment, the Council of Europe Convention on the Action Against Trafficking in Human Beings, customary international law, and any other international law or convention or rule of international law, including any order, judgment, decision, or measure of the European Court of Human Rights. That is what Downing Street are trying to subvert. And we need to wake up in Scotland. We are in, Russ, as far as I can see, we are in a very dangerous place.
Yeah, we are, mate. And you know, and the media and social media is amplifying the voices that support these things. But you're already seeing it, mate. That people do these things, then they realise that they get turned around on them. You've seen the, you know, the Brexiteers that were in Spain suddenly have to come back because not to be there anymore. Oh, I didn't realise that was me. The fishermen and the farmers suddenly have lost out all the EU money. I'm always reminded, and it's gone back a bit.
We're allowed to. We're old.
Well, gone back a bit, and it's when, if you remember, they brought in the new anti-terror legislation, and it was like around about 2010, 2011, I think, not long after the Tories got in, and it was only supposed to be used against terror suspects, you know, and the first person arrested was a pensioner heckling at a Tory party conference.
Yeah.
And that's the law of unintended consequences. You know, when you vote for something that you think it's only going to be used against the people you don't like, then don't act surprised when it's used against you.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we've seen this stoking of the flames from the former Home Secretary. I mean, how nasty or inappropriate must you be if you get fired from the same job twice?
Yeah. As Helen pointed out, if we send people to Rwanda, they're not guilty of people trafficking because they've paid Rwanda, because they're paying Rwanda to take them.
Yeah, 240 million as is, probably rise to about 290 million. And I've just caught a bit on one of the news feeds that what the Tory party are saying in-house just now to get this act through is that Rwanda gets paid that money regardless if a flight takes off.
Yeah.
Well, that's Braverman they've turned on and said she signed off on this. Well, no, Sunak, you're the boss.
Yeah. And the numbers are, I mean, it's only be a couple of hundred people, if that. It's not even going to make a scratch in the outstanding on the immigration figures. Yeah. It's populist policy. It looks good on paper. It appeals to a certain segment of the population. They go, and it's the old joke, isn't it? You know, it's the guy with 10 cookies telling the guy with 2 cookies that the guy with no cookies wants to take half of his.
Yeah. How are they going to control these people? You're going to put someone onto an aircraft who's in fear of their life.
Yeah.
How on earth are they going to control them on that flight?
Well, they'll restrain them, mate. It's and they play with the terminology. You know, I remember the big thing, and this has gone back a bit as well. When they said that the UK wasn't involved in extraordinary rendition, remember?
Yeah.
Which is when you basically take someone from where they live, take them to a country where you can torture them because it's not illegal in that country. And then they found out that actually the American planes were staging through a press week. Actually, it's at
Yeah,
one point.
it was press week. Yeah.
So we absolutely were involved in it. We were complicit in people being tortured.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely ridiculous. And I remember reading a story. It was a guy in Guantanamo Bay who'd been arrested, and he was absolutely. He said he'd been released now, but he said it was the ironic thing was he looked down at the shackles he was wearing, and they were stamped "Made in Sheffield."
Yeah, it's yeah. So yeah, Braverman is doing her impression of a screaming skull. She's obviously making a play for leadership, anticipating that Sunak loses the next GE if we ever get to a situation where indeed a GE will be called, because if they keep knocking off our civil rights, there's nothing stopping as is. There's nothing in the non-written constitution to stop Sunak from saying that due to state of emergency, we're cancelling all elections, and by the way, you can't, there's no comeback.
Someone else done that in like the early 1930s, remember?
Yeah. Whereabouts was that?
And what they actually did, because at the time, each German state had their own kind of little mini parliament. So he basically dissolved all of them as well, right? But then what he did a couple of years later was he reinstated them, but maintained that they had to have the same percentage makeup as the national parliament,
Right.
which meant predominantly Nazis.
Yeah. Nazis, yeah.
So democracy in those actual states was suspended.
Yeah.
So that would be the equivalent of them saying, right, Scottish Parliament's been dissolved, Welsh Synod's been dissolved, Northern Ireland Assembly's been dissolved, and then a year later, so now we're going to put it back up, but it's now going to be, 50% Tory, 20% Labour, 10% SNP, which would be, Plaid Cymru or whoever it would be.
3% or something like that. But people in Scotland, I think, are awake to this, are aware of this.
Yeah.
People in Wales are aware to it. People in Northern Ireland, heck, they're streaming up to join Southern Ireland at the moment. The uptake in the passports for Southern Ireland has been phenomenal since we bailed out. And they're very fortunate that they're in a situation where they can get that. So it's that one hang up again. It's certain sections down south of the Rio Tweed, and this is not an anti-English rant I'm going on to here. It's a statement of fact. What England votes for, everybody else gets lumbered with.
I'm just going to quickly answer Helen's question. How are they going to check if Rwanda government are making sure these people will be treated properly? They're not, Helen. They don't give us stuff.
No.
It's going to be out of sight, out of mind. Unfortunately, that's how it's going to work.
They don't care.
No.
It's, as we mentioned, it's a small amount of people that will be put through this. And it won't make a blind bit of difference to people coming across that channel, because they're not subjected to the propaganda that we're getting. They get their own version of propaganda from the traffickers, saying it's a land of milk and honey across there. Off you go. Yeah.
And by shutting down the safe and legal routes, you're empowering the traffickers. Now they're saying, we want to stop the traffickers. Well, brilliant, but you do that by having a method by which people can apply and come and do it properly.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It really is. And the truth is, as we all know, or we should know, that immigrants to this country are net contributors, which means is they pay more into the country than they take out.
Yeah.
That's been the case for decades.
Yeah.
For decades. And we're already seeing the impact of less immigration, because at the minute because they've got illegal immigration, people can't work. So the health and social care sector's taking a hit. The NHS is taking a hit. The public services are taking a hit because Brits don't want to go and work in care homes, or sweep the streets or do all these kind of the crappage. that what we class as lower kind of level jobs. But not just that, the NHS would die without immigration.
And they also,
it is.
Sorry,
it's self-harm on a national basis. It
but
really is.
Remember, they only deal in 5-year segments.
Yeah.
The length of a parliament. They don't care after that. It's not their. Has any former prime minister faced criminal proceedings because of the way he managed the country?
No.
Any chancellor? No.
Yeah.
Any foreign secretary? Possibly not. Because they're untouchable, and that's the way it's set up.
Yeah.
For them to govern, they can do as poorly as they want.
Yeah, short term. And I think, and your man Martin Docherty Hughes said that in an article, didn't he, that the defence budget shouldn't be a yearly thing.
Yeah.
He should sit down. It should be a joint party 5-year plan. This is the funding for the military, because that way we're not scrabbling for table scraps every bloody year.
Yeah.
And he's talking about that for a Scottish Defence Force, incidentally.
Yeah.
I don't think Westminster would ever go for that.
No.
And the truth is, Ireland's got an army, and they're a fraction of our population.
Yeah.
And they manage quite well.
Yes. In fact,
so there's no reason why we can't do it.
They've got a very, very good reputation as well. Some of their military. Right, Russ, have you seen the time?
I know, it's going really quickly, mate, isn't it? We screamed through these 30 minutes that were allotted.
Oh, jeepers. Where's it all gone, folks? Can we go back for another half hour?
I know, it'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yes. Maybe if we're nice with Kev, he might extend us by 15 minutes. Not tonight.
Helen's raised a point there. She's basically saying that the turnout for the marches has dropped off a bit. I think you're right. I think people are getting a little bit kind of fatigued with it. There needs to be a kind of push, and I think part of that, while it's a grassroots movement, part of that is because they're seeing kind of inaction from the SNP, unfortunately, to kind of ramp it up. There needs to be something kind of big, something splashy to do it. We can march their heart's content, but there needs to be political movement behind that. Yeah. And if people are not seeing the political movement, they're going to do it. Plus, it's winter, and I'm lazy. And I'm, but you're right. But there needs to be something. I like that. I like. So I need to show you Evelyn's wee comment here, which is good. Which I think we could all get behind. Yeah. Out the door in 24. You need to copyright that, Evelyn. That's
on the ball, and that is absolutely a very, very good way to finish off our year of broadcasting, Russ.
It absolutely is, mate. I can't believe we've managed to get 19 episodes in. It would have been 20. We would have a nice quiet 20, but we had one because Cliff had to find a new house to live in. I mean, for God's sake, how selfish can you get? But I'd like to take this opportunity, because we won't be back till after the new year, to thank everyone that's tuned in, that's listened to us ramble inanely for the last year or so, and for your comments and all your good wishes. Thank you so much, and hopefully we can continue doing that well into next year, or until we get independence and you guys put us out of business. That would be awesome.
Yes. I'll just echo Russ's thoughts there. We need you. We need you to tune in. We need you to comment. Otherwise, we're just speaking to ourselves, and me and Russ get very bored with our own conversations. So please stick with us in 24, and that at the door in 24 is definitely something I'm going to start using on my daily rambles. Stay safe over the winter period, and we'll see you in the new year, and we'll get back to it again.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone. Take care, folks.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, folks. All the best.